This public meeting is to hear the conditional use permit application. Jason Chop is our engineer from SEH. These are our Land Use Planning Commission members: Berta Wilcox, Mary Ann Kasich, Matt Max, and Joanne Kellner, and Vlad Kaczynski. And there's members of the steering committee here that might be able to give some input also. The purpose of this meeting is to hear the conditional use permit application, and Jason's going to present that information.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jason with SEH, an engineering firm that the city hired to work on this project. I think behind you is some series of documents. Help yourself, along with some engineering architectural renderings of the project. Again, this is for the Ranier project. This is the public hearing for the conditional use permit. Really got the way I have this laid out is I'm just going to do an overview of the project for those that aren't well aware of it, and then go through some slides that talk about what is in the conditional use permit. Essentially, this hearing is for the conditional use permit. Does this project conform with the intended zoning of the area of which it's going to be constructed? The ordinances with the city were vague, I guess, or non-existent.
They didn't
explicitly list this type of projects for the use for the zoning of this area. And then I'll go through some of the questions and the answers in the application for this project. Once I go through my slides, we'll turn it over to see if the land use committee has any questions that I can help answer. And then from there, I'll open it up to questions to the general public. I just want to let everyone aware that we're sticking to questions related to the conditional use permit today. If there are questions regarding other aspects of this project, I may simply just respond. You can submit them in writing to the city, and they may be addressed at a future time. But right now, I want to stick to what we are here for today, which is the conditional use permit. Project overview, intent to provide recreational boating, safe harbor with potable water, sanitary sewer, and electrical services. There's 26 tie-up facilities available with 7 overnight slips for boaters. It is a permanent design. It is essentially going to be built on sheet piles pounded into the floor of the lake. With a fixed concrete deck, and so the main structure itself is a permanent structure. The finger docks, which you see off to the sides, are floating structures, and they will have aluminum gangways that go from the main dock down to the fingers. This is a robust design that is intended for minimal maintenance. Design accounts for flood levels to minimize the damage. We set the elevation of the structure based upon the recent high water mark 2 years ago. And this is, we do have low-level lighting along this. We have taken into account that Ranier is a dark skies community. And this dock is designed to be ADA compliant. I can answer questions regarding some of the details, but we do have the renderings of what this will look like back on the back wall. Major permits for this project, U.S. Army Corps permit. We've already met and had the pre-application process with Army Corps and have submitted data. They have not determined exactly what permit this will fall under, but we will be receiving that information soon. Additionally, there's a Minnesota Department DNR permit for a waterwork permit for building something in the water course, and I believe that has been submitted as well. And then the other major permit for this project is the conditional use permit for the use of this facility at this zoned area, and that is through the city of Ranier. And the reason why we are here today. To go into another rendering of the project again, for those that aren't aware, the main portion is it's going to be built on steel piles, sheet piles, concrete deck with a concrete T on each side, and then the finger docks off to the side. The lighthouse structure would be the kiosk and basically the reservation kiosk for the facility. Into the conditional use permit, some of the questions that are asked regarding the intended use. We have, get to that, the adjacent properties include both commercial and residential properties. There's 4 of them. The budding property owners have stated support of their project, and the project does not impede adjacent owners' access to Ranier Lake. The proposed project is on city property and is in the location of the existing dock that's in place. The facility will be open to the public, and through this process, we will go through a formal process with the adjacent landowners of riparian rights or formal easements that need to be put in place if they are required. Another question on the conditional use permit is alterations to existing landscape and stormwater runoff. The existing dock will be removed. Obviously, there'll be a new dock installed in the same footprint, although it is a larger footprint. It will be supported on a steel piling structure, which is basically, there'll be, I guess, cubes almost piled into the ground and then filled with rock with spaces between them. The landscaping will be restored to the existing condition. From the dock facility back to the intersection will be new pavement, and there will be water and sewer lines underneath that. The stormwater will not change. It will be discharged directly into the Ranier Lake, just as it is today. And it will not, those type of, the runoff from the parking lot will not change in any altered pattern. Another question as it pertains to the conditional use permit is there going to be an additional traffic generated? Landside traffic is not expected to change. Transient and recreational boat traffic is expected to increase. So with this facility, you will see increased boat traffic, and there will be traffic coming in and out of the site because of the use of the boats and offloading. Another aspect that was put in the CUP are other services. As I've already discussed, potable water and sanitary services will be expanded to the dock facility, along with electrical receptacles for the different slips that will be in place. I already discussed the new driveway access, basically for the streets, but there will not be any additional new driveway access will be needed. A building permit is not needed. New signage will be installed at the kiosk, and additional city approvals related to zoning or plating are not expected at this time. As I said before, on agency approvals, Army Corps permit is in process, along with the Minnesota DNR permit. So that is a very bare bones overview of the conditional use permit. At this point, I guess I would open it up for questions from the Land Use Committee to see if there was anything that they have read or have questions on that I can hopefully field.
I have a question because a lot of people have asked me, and I've read a lot on Facebook. People are concerned about their taxes going up for the charges or the expenses that the city will incur. I'm under the understanding that any expenses that the city incurs are going to be offset from what the people pay from the slips there, correct?
My understanding is that's the intent of the city, but I don't know if those finances have been determined at this time.
I don't believe that it's all been, there's no.
That would be the plan,
specific
right? I mean, we don't want to have,
That's what's anticipated, yes.
we don't want to have taxpayers getting the brunt of any charges that incur with this project.
Yes, this is for those that aren't aware, this is a $5 million project that has been funded by 2 LCCMR grants, which is a lot of money, and bonding bill funds. And that's the funding package at this time. There hasn't been anything out of pocket from the city.
Correct.
Right, and the other questions I've had to me personally are incurred for the sewer. Sewer's a big thing. People are wondering, is the city going to have to pay the sewer? If they are, is it going to go on to the taxpayers? And I was under the understanding that people would be charged to dump there, correct? Or do we know that?
The council will determine that at a later date.
Right.
Okay, a lot of people have been calling me, and I've been talking to a lot of people, and they want the cup. The one thing that they are very, very, very concerned about is the sewage,
Okay.
the dumping station. And the question though is that because there has been so many, and the people that I've discussed it with are the ones that are mostly on the waterfront right there with the dock. So the question would be, is that in the original LCCMR grant and in the follow-up bonding of the state of Minnesota, is that in there? Was that written into the application, and is it absolutely required?
It's written into all of the grant applications. I guess I'm not positive whether you can
I can answer that question.
extract it or not. You can?
Back in 2021, I asked this very question to one of the co-chairs of the LTCMR. And what she responded to me with regarding the grant monies is that all changes need to be approved by staff, and if it is a major or controversial change, the full LTCMR commission has to approve the changes. The decisions to grant a sum of money is approved based on the original project. LTCMR has the right to only approve part of the project, and the whole project is closely scrutinized when the state makes an investment. So, as I posed that question to her, it was about future changes. If funding didn't come all the way through, we had to cut certain pieces out. So I don't mean to interrupt, but I did do the footwork on that question, and as long as nothing has changed since then, which it could have, but that is an avenue that I think is relevant here.
And the majority of the funds are actually going to come through the capital bonding grant, and that was kept a little bit less specific than those other two grants. So it didn't really ask you to put number of boats, and sewer and whatever utilities. So it was a lot more broadly written.
Yep. And again, we went through this design process with the steering committee, and the sewage facilities were something that the steering committee wanted to include in this project as well. Obviously, and it was in part of the grant application.
Well, we did discuss it, but the conclusion was too, is that we can always talk about a lot of things later on, okay? So, but I mean, I think that's really important, and like I said, the people that contacted me or, I have talked to are the directly affected people right in front of the dock, and that is their number one concern is the dumping station. And, interesting enough, when I did some research, I found out that there is a dumping station at Tilson Creek. And so I inquired about that. And originally, I think it was 4 houseboats, but, it's kind of a small area in there. But I found out that it was, it was effective cost-wise, and so that if they ever did use it, the environmental services, they would have to be taking care of it, and it would cost hundreds of dollars for somebody to dump there. And so I was a little bit disappointed about that, because I thought maybe that was another spot that could be accessed. When will we know if the phase 1 of the landslide plan has been granted an extension?
Not till the end of the legislative session.
And when would that be?
Usually the end of May.
End of May, so that's a really tight schedule.
Yep.
Okay, so that, and then when I was looking at the engineer plans, I noticed that they're not signed.
Correct.
So does that mean that after we have the meeting and the public meeting, everything will be signed off on when we have everything?
Yeah, at that point, we have this permit, and then when we get the approvals from the DNR and Army Corps,
Okay.
we will actually do the last 5% of design.
Okay.
There'll be any chance for the steering committee to make any other final requests, we'll review that. And then the project we've completed the design.
Okay.
And then the project at that point is ready to put out for construction bids.
Okay. And then there is one other thing that everybody was saying, and I wish I could go back a little bit, but I know that we discussed some things to finance the plan, but we never did get like a really good plan for a business plan as far as what things cost in the future to maintain it. And so I'm thinking that if we have a motion, can we add, not with a specific deadline to affect the cup, but that we could say that we will start working on a really serious business plan. Is that possible?
I don't know that that fits within the criteria of the conditional use permit.
Okay.
But I mean, that's certainly not out of the realm of possibilities, because it's gonna have to happen, yeah.
That would be one of those things to bring to the council at a council meeting.
Right.
I would agree. It really doesn't pertain to the reason behind this public hearing, but those looking at what happens after construction is done, yes, starting to bring that to council on what the next phases is of how you're gonna operate should be.
Like the sewer rates, so the
Yep.
taxpayers don't.
Yeah, those are the things that need to be figured out between now and the time construction's complete.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. One of the things that does pertain to the conditional use permit is potential environmental harm. Has there been an environmental assessment, like the EAW done?
Nope, the EAW is not required for this project.
Well, I think that's wrong. Because where it says it's required is construction or expansion of a marina or harbor that results in a 20,000 or more square foot total or 20,000 or more square foot increase in water surface area used. That's not just for the docks.
Correct.
That's also maneuvering of watercraft.
Correct.
And you can't tell me that if it's 200 foot wide at the top, I mean, that's your watercraft are going to be maneuvering all around that, and you're talking at least probably 30,000 square foot of water surface area where watercraft maneuver to come into the docking system.
And we came up with the dock with a maneuvering envelope, and it's under 20,000 square feet. Therefore, it's not required to do it. We've reached out to the governing agencies and discussed them with that as far as we have a maneuvering envelope, and there's been...
Do you have that information, a document showing
we can
the maneuvering envelope and all of that? Because, I mean, it's,
Sure.
as somebody spent some time.
If the city would like, we can show what we came up with.
Because I think it pretty easily comes to 20,000 square foot. And
It's really close, but it is under 20,000 square feet.
so. And then with that, is there any reason that the city would not choose to do an environmental assessment just because of the potential impacts and the how much the lake and lakefront is important to our community?
This was brought up about a year ago and presented to the council, and the council passed, I believe, a resolution not to do a EAW if it wasn't required. Basically, to do a discretional one.
Okay.
Am I correct on that, Joe?
You're correct, yeah.
So this whole discussion on the EAW, the 20,000 square feet, came up a while ago,
Okay.
and we knew that was concerning some individuals, and so we did present it to the council.
Okay. And then also, one of the things that came up was that they don't, there's no expectation of increased traffic on land. And, I mean, I guess I would imagine that you're going to see a lot more traffic using the boat ramp that we do have, more than normal. And also you'll run into a lot more people potentially meeting boaters here, getting on boats or meeting for dinner or whatever. And so I would imagine that there would be an increase in traffic from that regard.
Yeah, I think from our standpoint is we're talking about the site itself, and to predict whether or not you're talking about the adjacent boat landing, and that I'm automatically assuming that anyone that lands their boat there is going to come to the docking facility.
Right.
Yeah. We're talking about, I guess what we're talking about is direct impacts.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
Sure.
I just have one question as to where the sewage.
Right on the end of the facility, on the end of the dock, on the
So
T.
where are you going to be piping that back into?
Down underneath the deck of the dock, back into back to the shoreline.
And is there?
It's a pump. It's a contained
is there
system.
Precautions put in place in case there's a breakage or leakage or?
It's a contained facility with a backup pump, and we can send you the documents of the actual pump itself, the whole system. It's designed for marine use.
Because I know that's been a big concern
Sure.
with a lot of people that have called, like, what if something should happen, what if the line breaks?
Correct.
You have terrace work there, you have rooms, you have all these other
Yep.
things that are involved in there, and then now we've got this
Yep.
sewage pollutant in the water, right?
Yep. I mean, that's gonna happen in any facility if there's a boat that has a leak or a manhole next to a shoreline. But yeah, there'll be valves, there's alarms that turn it off if there's a pump failure. And that, comes under the operation of the city utilities to manage it just like a water main break or anything else. But yeah, the facility is designed for marine use, and we can give you the information on it. And if that's a concern, then obviously that can be addressed to the council.
Yeah, I would like that information.
Okay.
I looked over the plans, and I did get a few calls, and I've been accused of being from the old guard, whatever that is. But the one thing I did notice, I don't think you guys considered a floatplane, because you got a flagpole out there again. You'd be tangled up in that pretty easy if you came in with a plane.
Yeah, I don't think through all the design discussions, there was ever discussions about it being utilized for float planes. Tom, do you remember? I don't remember that ever being a discussion of use by the city.
It was just briefly discussed, but they can no longer, there's a port for the airplanes to clear in below the Ranier Bridge.
Okay.
My understanding is here and there, so the customs likely would establish another place to clear in, which is pretty strict about that.
Yeah.
But that would be a question for them.
So we're on this commission, I guess, and I kind of take exception when you say that's got nothing to do with this. If you came and, to use another person's analogy, if you came and got a permit for a restaurant, would I want to know how much his hamburger would cost? Well, no, I wouldn't, because if you got a permit for a hotel or a gas station, we would want to know what your parameters are, but that's your gas station and that's your investment. Things go south, that'd be your problem. So this thing is actually the village. So that includes all of us. And so there, when you say to me, that's got nothing to do with the permit, well, I live here, and I pay taxes, and I feel like I need to represent all the people
Sure.
in the community. So there's obviously some big advantages for some, for others, maybe not. There's a lot more people here than just on the shoreline.
Yeah, I'd like to maybe correct myself on that. My intent with that comment is whether or not there's a flagpole at the end is not
Well,
the
that's
intent.
got-
You know what I mean? But that's not the intent of this. The intent of this meeting is the public hearing for the CUP, which is the intent of this project, the correct use of this site as far as it's zoned. So I just wanted to keep us on track as to why we were here today. And because there's a lot of other questions that I'm answering that really don't as much pertain to the CUP. They pertain to individual design details that certain individuals in the community may or may not be supportive of. And so I just wanted to keep track of why we were here, and that was the intent of the comment.
I brought the flagpole up because I saw Thor, Anderson. I just wanted the noise included. But, so getting back to this, well, I read through this and it says that continuing use of the location would be the same, but it won't be the same because it's going to be kind of a business entity. We're going to be pumping and selling stuff and all that. So that does change the use of the property some. And I took the liberty of looking up in the dictionary what transient meant because I didn't want to misspeak. And it says transient is passing in and out, passing by or through with only a brief stay. So this transient traffic, I think one of the reasons we have all these people here is because, this has been going around for a long time, and I've heard a lot of people, and I've got comments from a lot of people, some good, some not so much. But I guess for me, I want to be sure that the people of Ranier aren't going to get to the point where, you know, we can get the nicest place in the world and we can put you in there and give it to you for free. You can't keep it going. So along with all this there's no such thing as a maintenance-free business. So we're going to have maintenance, and I know that the DNR has helped out with the other dock maintenance. I don't think they're going to be jumping on for this deal. So that leaves it on the village of Ranier. So I want to be sure that we have some plan that's going to involve the citizens of the village. So if we have this big dock, and I have a big boat and has a top on it, you know, I might like to come down and get a hamburger one day. So I'm all for getting a better dock. Obviously, anything would be an improvement from what we have. So I get a little tired of people telling me I'm against it if I make a comment to them. But I think what would really clear things up, and I notice that all this government stuff is pending, my feeling is, why can't the council, you guys, whoever you're doing this, steering committee, why can't you bring a plan and say, this is what it is, this is how it works, this is how you're going to pay for your sewer, and this is what it's going to cost to take care of the dock. We obviously don't know exactly what it is, but we don't have anything like that. So I'm the 25th guy to get there with my boat. So what happens if somebody's got 2 spaces, somebody's been there a week? You see what I mean? This is what bothers all the local people. They want to know how this thing's going to work. Well, all we know now is, well, we'll figure that out later. We get that every time. We'll figure that out later. Well, you don't even know that. Well, this is our turn to be heard. And I want to hear what all these people have to say. But this, to tell me I can talk about it later, so we say, okay, go ahead, build the dock. And a little late now. You know, with the dock is there now we got to live with it. So, as long as all this stuff is pending, the DNR is pending, I would say the best thing to do in this situation is take whatever time you need and get your steering committee and make a plan. This is what the annual we figure is going to be. This is what electricity costs, this costs. This is how we can figure this out so that the person who's not using the dock isn't paying for it. But we don't have anything like that. We have lots of hearsay and lots of this is going to happen. And there's going to be 26 houseboats there, and there's going to be any. I noticed on the picture there's none, but I just want to know how it's going to work. And this is a great plan, but there's too many loose ends for me. I know how it goes when you start a big project. We'll get to that. We'll figure that out later. That doesn't work very well. So I would like to see something more concrete so these people know what's going on. Because it's going to be a big effect on all people here if we run into problems. Because the building the dock's one thing, keeping it going is another.
I'd like to say something. I'm hearing Lab here and listening to Mary Ann, and we have to have another public meeting to address these concerns, because that's exactly right. We got to know, but we got to know what the plan is. And, you know, basically, this is the first time we've really seen these plans now, and with that, we can start making some assumptions to the best we can, and we can start putting some cost to it, some time to it. So we have to have that public hearing. Are we going to have brass lights? We're going to have gold lights. We're going to have 12-foot lights, 6-foot lights. Those are the things that you need to finalize your design, but also that we agree upon in consensus. So that's why we have to have another meeting very soon so that you can continue to work. I understand this is a conditional use permit and meeting, and that's what it's for. But we got to have one, not just we'll figure it out later. When we have all the input from the citizens, from our steering committee, then we can move forward with a plan that Lad's looking for, Mary Ann's looking for, these other people are looking for, and we can answer some of these questions. So we have to.
And then we can approve the permit.
Well, conditional use permit is, are we within the zoning laws Lad, I think what he's saying, we're not violating any condition, well, I'll let you speak.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at here is in the permitting process, this can take not only this permit, but the other ones. The other ones take longer to get processed and approved. Approving this permit does not say this project is going, the CUP does not say this project is going to construction. Typically, when the design's done, which we now have designed, and we can, if the city would like a public hearing, we're certainly available to present at a public hearing on the details. If everyone wants to hear more details, the city just has to ask us if we can do that. But typically, when the design is final, the city says, we are happy with the design, please go out for construction bids. That's the next step. The council authorizes SEH to put out bids for construction. We don't have that authorization yet, so approving a CUP does not give us authorization for the city to move forward on going to the next phase, which is construction. So if the city, which what I'm hearing, if that's what the city wants, is another public hearing to focus on the design details, and if there's going to be any other final changes before the project is stamped with an engineer's signature and put out for construction bids, we're certainly willing to do that. We need that direction from the city.
You have many more steps, but this is our step right here.
I understand.
This is our step. Once we say go ahead, we can't come back in 2 weeks and say, oh, we decided, we changed our mind,
Well,
This
that's
is
not
it.
true, Lad. That's
Huh?
not true. The council
This is
has
it
to
for us.
approve
So
everything.
as long as everything's pending, you can't do anything with all the other stuff. Let's finish the plan. Let's see how this thing works. Don't tell us we'll figure it out later. I'm not comfortable with that.
That's why we have to have another meeting.
Then
And
we'll
we've got to
then we'll
schedule it
prove
shortly.
it. Then we'll prove it. We'll know what's going on. I mean, I don't,
But we're not approving it. We're making a recommendation to the council. They have to approve it, not us.
that's right. This is our time. This is our time to
Yeah.
ask for what we want or what we feel or what we think. And I think in this issue, this isn't like most of the things we handle. Somebody building a garage over here. You know what?
Yeah.
That's your baby. This is our baby.
Well, I would just like to say that a public meeting is absolutely necessary yesterday. But what I've come to learn being involved in local government is that a lot of times decisions get moved farther away from the general population to have a part in, the further you push the project down the road. So it's like, well, let us do this and then we'll let you do this. And in my experience, the more you let something farther down without specific stipulations in place, the less control the population has in having to say what goes forward. So I think that's what's going on right here, is wanting to make sure, I know we have deadlines, I know things need to be done, but that doesn't mean if the zoning committee is or isn't ready to go forward with something that we aren't doing things out of order. I mean, I'm assuming this conditional use permit is in conjunction with the DNR. Is that a stipulation by the DNR for us to do this?
Since there was no direct information in the ordinance, we defaulted to what the DNR stated, which says they should have a conditional use permit.
So it's just a matter, when you don't have answers for people, they don't feel, you don't have the most knowledge at your disposal to make an educated decision, maybe that decision should be made at least. So I think that's reiterating what Vlad is saying, and that's more or less to the zoning committee, maybe less to you, because I know you have a job to do here, but just.
No, that's fine.
But yeah.
No, I'd just like to make a statement that when this initially was brought to this idea by Tom Doherty here, the city granted a approval to move forward and to assemble a steering committee. They assembled, was there 12 or 14 of us? Yeah. And, I got to thank everybody who was a part of it. I was a part of it. They all donated their time for the community. We all had thoughtful explanations and discussions, constructive. There was opposition in the steering committees on different thoughts and designs. All these considerations that everyone's concerned about, has been talking about, have been addressed in that steering committee. And I don't know how better you can assemble a design than having people within the area that chose and made those decisions. And there were sacrifices on everybody's ends and ideas on what they wanted. So I believe that this has already been done for the population here, and that's what we were asked to do, and we put our time in for that.
What population?
Excuse me?
What population? What people?
Just people,
In general?
the community, yeah.
Are there any board questions
Correct.
for the planning commission or for,
I just have a quick question. So to approve this CPU, can it be approved with a condition, like
sure.
the general population doesn't want the sewer?
Right. I think that any changes to the design should be brought to the city council.
So it
Right now, the design is proposed, the city council will create a steering committee. The steering committee to represent the city on design decisions. Us as the engineering team worked with the steering committee to develop this design
So it's a no.
and present it to the city for acceptance. If there are people within the city, residents of the city that don't like aspects of the design, I would recommend that you bring those concerns to the city council. That's kind of,
So I guess that the
Am I
question
on the line,
is,
Sharon?
can it be approved without? Like,
And
is there, yeah.
this is the steering committee right here, right?
No,
No.
this is the planning commission.
So I guess that was my question, can it be approved?
Amanda's on the steering committee.
Yeah, but I just was wondering, because I know the general consensus is no sewer from what I've heard in the community. So I just wondered if this could be approved with with conditions, or that has to go back to a committee.
I just think it boils down to two things. They don't want shit, and they want to know how you pay for it. That's really, I think, what everybody's feeling.
Right.
Is I don't want poop, and how much is it going to cost us over the next 25, 30 years? And I don't think any answers have been made on either one of those questions, except I believe the sewer could be saved, but a lot of people don't want the shit, right?
So I'm part of the steering committee, and part of the stuff that you're talking about, how we're gonna pay for what minimal maintenance we're hoping to have on this dock, which should be minimal, is part of it is, we charge for the sewer, somebody hooks up to electrical, or if we ended up renting a couple slips overnight or something like that. Those are the funds that will help pay for maintenance of this dock, so our city can be reimbursed for what our maintenance guys are doing on the dock. The sewer aspect of it is, if you look at 80% of the pontoon boats that are running around the lake now, they all have bathrooms in them. And where do they get pumped out? Very seldom do they go into the houseboat operations, because on the weekends, the houseboat operations are busy, they're not pulling in there to pump out. There's nowhere else that they pump out. So we're trying to provide a service that we could actually make a little bit of money off of to help pay for future costs that we may have on the dock. These systems that we have, they're a sealed system. You're not going to have sewer flying all over the place. They work just like at an RV station. And everybody knows how to work those that has RVs. If they were a messy operation, people won't be running RVs. I can tell you, most people don't want to get that all over. This is a safe system. They're used all over. It's a state-of-the-art system. The water that we would have would just be a small water system there for cleanup that you have to flush your tank. Electrical would be, there'd be a number of hookups for people to hook up and charge the afternoon or overnight or something like that. Those are some of our ideas on how we would recoup some of our money. You're not going to, it's a sealed system, so you're not going to smell a bunch of sewage.
Yep.
it's
not
only
like having-
one tank, one pump system.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
not one in each slip or anything like that. It's just one offloading spot.
Yeah, it's not like having Crandall's truck coming
Yeah.
with your tank up. You're not gonna, it's not anything like that. So those are some of the things. And we have always been conscious of how we can generate some funds with the dock to help pay for any costs going forward. But number one, with our design, and he can tell you, that we've always been very adamant that in our whole design of this dock, that we want this dock to be something that will last for many years and not need a bunch of upkeep. We're looking way down the road where my grandkids shouldn't have to worry about anything like this. That's the type of look that we've always done with this dock. So we haven't just been throwing this out. We're all taxpayers here too. We don't want a big elephant running around knocking things down. We want it done right, and that's what we're doing. But we're also trying to make something great for our city. And it's not just a village and all that, it's the city.
The what?
It's the city, it's not just a village.
I'm okay with it. Yeah.
So that's the point, what you just said. You guys probably have talked about a lot of things, but I'm sitting here and all I have to go on is, well, maybe we gotta rent a slip or two, or maybe a few bucks, or maybe we gotta, well, that's, when we're starting out, I'd like something a little more concrete. You know, I mean, I'd like to be able to say, well, this is how we're gonna generate this much money, and this is how we're gonna take care of it. We go down here and we have a problem down there, and we have to take care of it. If we have to call the sheriff or whatever we have to do. And if we are a city, when is the sheriff gonna tell us, you know, you guys call us all the time, we're not coming anymore, you guys have to get your own police department. So then we have to fund that. So I think what I'm saying is that these are all good ideas, but, you know, we'll get to it later, we'll do this later. And you can see all these things are pending, and this is our chance to say something. And so I think when I think of all the people in Ranier, I don't think it's out of line to ask how we're gonna do all these problems. But we don't have anything. All we have is all these things flying around. So I would like to see some way we're gonna concrete take care of those things. And I beg to differ about the 65 years, no problems. I don't know much about pumps, but I know how they work, and I know they don't make a pump that never breaks down. And we have, obviously, 4 seasons, we have a lot of things going on. We have ice, we got floating docks, we got permanent docks, we got flood. There's gonna be expense, that's the big concern. If we can't nail it down now, it just gets further away, and pretty soon, it just runs away on us. And so I think someone has to be looking out for the person who isn't sitting here tonight, who doesn't have a big boat, who's gonna wonder what's going on. That's why we're here.
Sounds like you're looking for a performer on this project before you approve anything else on it. You want to know how it's going to perform, how many boats are going to come in, how many skips are going to be, how much fuel is going to be pumped, how much revenue is going to generate, a performer.
Well,
That's what you're asking.
well,
Sounds like
hopefully we'll be real busy. And hopefully then we'll have some money. If we don't have any boats, yes, we're still gonna have the maintenance. But we don't have any plan right now. We have no idea, how much does it cost to rent one of those slips? How long can I rent one? I mean, can I just park my boat there for the summer? I mean, I can go get a big boat and park it there, and I'll just come over, run around a little bit and come back, tire up. I mean, those are things that are gonna come up that we're gonna have to address.
Go ahead.
I'm on the steering committee, obviously, from the get-go. So what you're asking for is I'm not speaking for the whole steering committee, but what you're asking for, we have no data on what it's gonna cost you, or what income's gonna be, how it's gonna be generated. So what you're asking for is just a projection on what this is gonna produce.
Well,
It's just a projection.
Yeah.
No hard numbers.
Not
There is
only
no
that,
hard
but
numbers.
I'm asking for an explanation for how we handle the social problems that come with it.
Right. But they're only projections, though.
We don't have any of those either.
Yeah. But that's what you're asking for.
I'm asking for some kind of plan. Maybe we have to modify it, but I just don't want to go in with no plan.
Yeah. Just as long as you're aware, it's just gonna be projection on what it's gonna be.
Well, you project what you think usage will be, but you will have costs, and you can figure out what those costs will be. If you've got a pump,
Depends on what the
dump
revenue is.
station, you're probably going to need to do it on a regular basis.
Depends on
You
what-
have
depends
assumptions,
on-
of course. We run businesses, we do projections, we do we assume conservative projections of what business will be. And then you put numbers to that so that we can figure out what costs might be. Yes, they're projections, but right now we have nothing.
Yeah.
We
Just want to be,
don't know if it's gonna cost.
I just want to make sure everybody understands that these numbers are projections
We understand.
and not actual numbers.
Of course.
And I
Just as
think
long as everybody
Everything in the
realizes
future is
that.
projections.
in everybody's
Right now, we have
mind.
nothing.
Yes, sir.
Irregardless of the projections, you're still gonna have money to get for maintenance. I mean, that's a given. And that's what we don't know, that's what I don't know, because I'm a taxpayer too. So I wanna know how the city is gonna do that. Are they gonna have to hire another maintenance person?
Yes, that's what I was gonna
What are they
say.
gonna have, to put somebody down there to collect the money? How much
Is this
is
the public
spent?
comment period?
All of those questions I think that last asking, and I think that Mary Ann alluded to. The pier looks great, looks beautiful. Any city would want to have it. And it's paid for, that's cool. Now, next year, we're paying for that. Irregardless if there's 20 votes or 0.
This gentleman right here.
Yes, sir.
So just relative to the process, my name is Bill Waymeyer. I've got property just a couple doors down from where the project is. I'd like to speak to the commission. And I reviewed the materials before the meeting for the permit. And so regarding the process, I think this application should be rejected. And my reasoning is, as I review the materials, I have strong feelings about a couple things. I see that the project as listed on the application is not accurately represented. The project has been painted as a avenue to increase traffic to Voyageurs National Park and boats coming and going. What's missing, and you hit it, lad, what's missing in the artwork, what's missing in the sketches is the houseboats. And this is not a pier project for boats coming and going. It's about creating an opportunity for people to live on the water, live at that pier for weeks or months at a time, just for the summer months. And so what comes with that is a different consideration than what's presented as the project description, in my opinion. And what goes along with that, I think was touched on, was parking and the cars and coming and going. People will be here for weeks and months at a time, and the people coming and going will have vehicles. Parking is not addressed, and it should be. And so there's two aspects of the application that I would encourage you to take a step back and look at, just as it's written. Does it accurately depict what's going to end up here for the use of that property? And that's my...
Yes, sir.
I'm Charles Hellboy, and I'm not actually a voting resident here, but I do have property here. And so if this doesn't work out well, I'll be joining the rest of you in helping me. But I have two things that I'd like to bring up to the commission. And one is entirely speculation, but I'm pretty sure that if we were real lucky and won the HGTV house in Tennessee or wherever it is, that would really be cool. But I think when we first got billed for lawn care, we realized we were out of our league. And of course, we got a pretty good out. We can sell the house. So that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But here we're getting something we can't necessarily sell. And I would kind of turn the tables a little bit, and this I think speaks to the question about how should we be looking at it. If for some reason I was a person of means and I thought this was an important thing for the community, and I came with $5 million and wanted to build this, I think you as a commission would be expecting a lot more of me than we have in the data here. And so I would urge the commission to ask for kind of a solid idea of how this is gonna work out. Because in fact, if I came and built this thing and went belly up, it would be the city's problem. So anyway, those are the two brief points. But from a numbers perspective, we're talking about a $5 million project, and now I'm by no means did thorough research, but I looked on the website, and it says our city budget here for the year is $652,000. We might not be in the right ballpark for this kind of a project. Anyway, it's my opinion.
Sir?
I have a question. When I talk about season, is there some kind of winterization process for the pumps that we would have to go through?
The pumps?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to get the manufacturer's information, but the system just gets valved off, and I think you pull the pump out. It's going to be emptied and left alone over the winters. Yes, sir.
I'd like someone to clarify for the commission exactly what is and exactly what is not within their purview in the decision they're going to make in about 8 minutes. I want to know if they think this is a popularity contest on the project, or are they taking a technical decision about some parameters?
The conditional use permit, as I said again, does this project conform to the intended zoning for this area? That's why we're here today, and that's what the message everybody's really trying to get across when we started. I feel like there's a lot of concerns that the people in this room have, but I would just ask you, this is why we're here today. This is the sole decision. It is not authorizing, the city has not authorized us to move forward with construction. This is a zoning meeting for the conditional use permit.
We still have to have a public hearing to approve everything.
Correct. And that's what Dennis said earlier, is if there's going to be another public hearing with the council to make a decision before you even go out to construction, that has not happened yet.
How many sites have been looked at for lead on here?
There has been a couple, and we just do have one that's actually being proposed.
You know, what's the lowest drainage point for that entire area?
Again, this is something that's available from the city for contractors. When this goes out to construction, any contractor can find their own sites, so they can pick a different site. It was one that the city said is available. It may not be useful to a contractor.
It's adjacent to my house, which Ranier has been trying to put a parking lot there for the last 6 years.
Okay. Again, it's a separate scenario, but again, a contractor that if the city isn't going to allow the usage, that's up to the city to determine. But any bidding contractor can pick a site that's available to them. That's their discretion. That's what we put in the plan.
Have you ever looked anywhere else for any other area?
The gentleman that I work with, I don't know what other sites he looked at prior to the application. If we did, Jeremy.
Get a contract information.
Yep, I get it. Cheryl has it.
As far as the sewage goes on the dock, I work with boats 11 months out of the year. Houseboats, you're going to have those suck sewage out of it. Those boat, brother, pontoon boat, whatever you got, with a little shitter on it. Nobody's using those except for storage for life vests and paddles, more or less. How many people in this room actually use the bathroom on the boat? Go ahead. Tell me that's all. Therefore, having sewage on the dock is asking.
Everybody's going in the lake. And this way you could be environmentally friendly, you could have it close to proper. What's wrong with that?
Any other questions?
I have a question pertaining to Larry's comment and question, because we obviously are ones that are going to make a recommendation tonight, and it's a very valid question. So my question is, every other time we come to one of these meetings, when there can be one person sitting in front of us, that's an easy brainer. We go through, if everything's met, it's granted. Then the other questions and the other issues are dealt with the council, not us. It's not up to us to decide if the sewer can be approved or not. It's up to us to say if they met everything on this permit. Am I wrong?
That's my understanding. I don't know the bylaws for the zoning committee, but
That is your duty tonight, is to determine, to give a recommendation to the council as to whether this application meets the criteria to approve the conditional use permit.
And I'm not saying I agree with everything. I don't know that I agree with the sewer, but that's not my job to decide tonight. My vote is if everything's met in this permit. And I know people are gonna look at me like, oh, you want the sewer? No, I don't. I don't know if I want the sewer. I don't know if I want the sewer. We need to vote on whether this meets everything it's supposed to meet. Not whether our friends out there want the sewer or not. Not whether our friends think the taxes are gonna go up. That's the council's job, not our job.
And there are times that you put conditions on
Yes.
to different projects also.
That was my other
That are
question.
that are, within the.
When Amanda asked about whether the sewer is out of there, that's probably too big of a thing for us as a committee to say, no, we don't want the sewer. That's something the council would have to decide, correct?
correct. We prepared.
Can we approve it based on, we require another public meeting to go any further? What kind of conditions can we put on it if we decide to approve it?
That, I guess that's a city question. I don't know if I have the recommendation.
Can you table this until we have a public meeting? Can this be tabled until next month, and then we have a public meeting, and then we go forward with that?
I don't know what will change between now and next month regarding whether this meets the zoning intent. I guess if the city has some direction for us as the designers to do something other than a public hearing, I guess I would look towards the council is not active right now. This is a zoning meeting. And so again, like I said, this was about the conditional use permit and the zoning. And there's some other questions that are here with the people in the room. And from my purview, yes, those are council questions, not as much whether or not that applies to the zoning of this project.
And Led's right, this is like the biggest one we've ever done, but I want to make sure that I make my recommendation based on what we are supposed to be voting on, not what the council has to deal with.
And I would like to know, though, that we have the assurance that the council will hear and possibly make a change if deemed necessary before we, give the full permission on the car. I mean,
That is the duty of the council to review the recommendations
of this, but I'm saying when we have, like, obviously many citizens have come forward. I'm now speaking with the hat of the steering committee, almost, because I'm on that, but I've had so many that I feel like I have to, number one, as a waterfront person right next to it, I have felt like I have, given up, let's just say, my view in the front. I know that there's going to be more traffic, which affects my life at my home. I know that my swimming will be impeded. I will no longer be able to go from my dock to the Ranier beach. So I'm looking forward to the community as though this will help the Ranier citizens be able to have this dock. But when I have to represent now the people that are really telling me about the sewer, and even if I agree or disagree, I have to take that into consideration because I am representing them, and that is what they are telling me. And we've had other meetings where we've said we have to listen to the people. We have to listen to the people. So can we be assured that the people can be heard, and if there needs to be a change made, that they will be heard, and that we could possibly have, figure this all out?
Yeah, I mean, from where I stand, if there's people that have concerns about the design as it stands, they can go to a council meeting and explain to the city council that there's people that want changes to be considered.
The design hasn't been given to the general public, though. Let's remember that.
And that's why I said that if you have a public hearing, if they have a public hearing to talk about those final design details, that's potentially the next step. Again, I go back to why we're here for this permit application today.
Yes, I think, fair enough. There is going to be a public meeting on this, and we will listen to what people have to say. There's going to be pros, there's going to be cons, and we're going to listen to them as the steering committee has gone out and sought information, everything, so we'll be listening to that. But as far as what we're talking about here, she hit it right on the head. Here are the requirements for a zoning permit, or conditional use permit. That's what you should be considering now. Now, I understand all these concerns that you, lad, everybody has. I have them too. I want to hear what recommendations that we want to see about this, whether you have sewer or you have no sewer, things like that. But that is not the question that we're talking about today. Today is, is it in zoning requirements? Have they met requirements for the zoning in the design phase? And from what he's telling me, everything has been met. Now, you guys have to make a decision on that, and then the council will act on the decision that you guys make, and we're listening to this too. I see that councilman here, we're listening to what's being said here. But the main thing is the concerns I hear, where I see there's, you know, some mistrust or some reservations, is whether we're going to have a public hearing and whether we're going to pay any attention to that public hearing. And I can tell you surely, I've listened to many of these comments over the last few years, and we've addressed them to the best of our ability, and we intend to do that again. And that, you can rest assured, will happen. And I know this girl sat right next to me is going to be sure of that, and so am I. And so is Wilbur, and so is Todd, and Joanne. But that's our duty as a council. Your duty as this thing, I'm not trying to explain it to you, it's just, did we meet the requirements or didn't we for the zoning, or for the conditional use permit? And we will set a date for that public hearing at our next council meeting.
Can the Land Use Planning Committee make a recommendation to accept the conditional use permit or to recommend a conditional use permit without the sewer aspect of it? Because that's not what this is about. That's the big contention.
It is. He
The
always
sewer
said
and
no.
the cost of it remains.
There's several ways of handling the sewer issue. One, you can have an alternate in the design, whether we have sewer or not sewer. There'll be a price attached to it. And if the price is astronomical, and we don't want it anyway, or only half of us want it, we'll throw it out. If our budget comes in over budget, we have to look at maybe dispersing some of these things. We're allowed to do that. And so then we may have to address that. Jason does it all the time. Rarely does he bring in a project that he don't have to make some kind of, well, a building project where you some have to change the roofing or the sidewalk or something. And so those are listed as alternates, and I'm sure we'll be looking at them when we finally get a bid on this project.
Just for clarification purposes, since almost the very beginning of all of this, the meeting minutes from the steering committee, plans, rendering, the CU application, CUP application, all of that can be found on the city website. It's all been on the city website for a long time. It's been available for the public and the land use committee for, since we started. All that information is available on the website, so everybody understands that.
And we did have, I think it was a little over a year ago, we had a public hearing. We had an open house with concept renderings, soliciting feedback from the members of the city of what people wanted to see with this facility. And realize where we're at now is we have worked with the steering committee to get to where we are today. But there, to Tom's point, there's been the documentation of this process of where we got today, as all provided on the city website. And this is obviously one of our next steps.
I apologize to get off. I think everyone who is on the steering committee needs to stand up so that anyone in this room who wants to give feedback to us, being that we're making recommendations to the council and the council adds or subtracts from that, I think we should do that right now real quick. And there are members who are not us.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. Any other questions?
So the commission needs to make a motion, a recommendation, or motion to recommend whatever you're going to recommend to the council with whatever following conditions you want to put on it. just like you would in any other planning commission meeting.
Would you repeat that, please?
I'm asking the Land Use Planning Commission to make a recommendation on this application to submit to the council with any conditions that they want to put on it or not put on it.
I'm going to make a recommendation because everything is answered in the conditional use permit to approve with the condition that a public hearing is made and that the sewer issue is strongly looked at and the community is listened to during that regarding the sewer and the cost of maintenance. Those two issues, because they seem to be the biggest issues. That's all.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Me?
Me. Which would,
No.